What did the Pandavas, those marked car warriors, the sons of Kunti, after arriving at Ekakakra? Those marked car warriors, the sons of Kunti, on arriving at Ekakakra, lived for a short time in the abode of a Brahmana. Leading an eleemosynary life, they beheld various delightful forests and earthly regions, and many rivers and lakes, and they became great favorites of the inhabitants of that town in consequence of their own accomplishments. At nightfall they placed before Kunti all they gathered in their mendicant tours, and Kunti used to divide the whole amongst them, each taking what was allotted to him. Those heroic chastisers of foes, with their mother, together took one moyet of the whole, while the marked Bhima alone took the other moyet. In this way, the illustrious Pandavas lived there for some time. One day, while those bulls of the Mahabharata race were out on their tour of mendicants, it so happened that Bhima was with Pritha. That day, Kunti heard a loud and heart-rending wail of sorrow coming from within the apartments of the Brahmana. Hearing the inmates of the Brahmana house wailing and indulging in piteous lamentations, Kunti, from compassion and the goodness of her heart, could not bear it with indifference. Afflicted with sorrow, the amiable Pritha, addressing Bhima, said these words full of compassion. Our woes assuaged, we are, our son, living happily in the house of this Brahmana, respected by him and unknown to the Dhritarashtra's son. I always think of the good I shall do to this Brahmana, like what they do that live happily in the others' abodes. O child, he is a true man upon whom favors are never lost. He payeth back to others more than what he receiveth at their hands. There is no doubt some affliction have overtaken this Brahmana. If we could be of any help to him, we should then be requiting his service. Hearing these words of his mother, Bhima said, Ascertain, O mother, the nature of the Brahmana, distress and whence have it arisen. Learning all about it, he leave it a will, however difficult may the task prove. While mother and son were thus talking with each other, they heard again another wail of sorrow proceeding from the Brahmana and his wife. Then Kunti quickly entered the inner apartments of that illustrious Brahmana, like unto a cow running towards her tethered calf. She beheld the Brahmana with his wife, son, and daughter, sitting with a woeful face, and she heard the Brahmana say, Oh, fear on this earthly life, which is hollow as the reed, and so fruitless after all, which is based on sorrow, and hath no freedom, and which hath misery for its root. Life is sorrow and disease. Life is truly a record of misery. The soul is on, but it hath to pursue virtue, and wealth, and pleasure. And because these are pursued at one and the same time, there frequently occurs a disagreement that is the source of much misery. Some say that salvation is the highest object of our desire, but I believe it can never be attained. The acquisition of wealth is hell. The pursuit of wealth is attended with misery. There is more misery after one has acquired it, for one love, one possession, and if any mishap Without them, the possessor becomes afflicted with woe. I do not see by what means I can escape from this danger, or how I can fly hence with my wife to some region free from danger. Remember, wife, that I endeavored to migrate to some other place where we won't be happy, but thou didst not then listen to me. Talk frequently solicited by me, thou, a simple woman, told me, I have been born here, and here have I grown old. This is my ancestral homestead. Thy venerable father, or wife, and thy mother had a long time ago ascended to heaven. Thy relations had all been dead. Why then didst thou yet like to live here? Led by affection for thy relatives, thou didst not then hear what I said. But the time is now come when thou art to witness the death of a relative. How sad is that spectacle for me! Perhaps the time is come for my own death, for I shall never be able to abandon cruel one of my own as long as I myself am alive. Thou art my helpmate in all good deeds, self-denying and always affectionate unto me as a mother. The gods having given thee to me as a true friend, and thou art ever my prime stay. Thou hast, by my parents, been made the participator in my domestic concerns, of poor lineage and good disposition, the mother of children, devoted to me, and so innocent, having chosen and wed thee with due rites. I cannot abandon thee, my wife, so constant in thy vows, to save my own life. How shall I myself be able to sacrifice my son, a child of tender years, and yet without the hirsute appendages? How shall I sacrifice my daughter, whom I have begotten myself, who have been placed as a pledge in my hands by the lustrous Creator himself, for bestowal on a husband, and through whom I hope to enjoy, along with my ancestors, the treasures attainable by those only that have daughter sons? Some people think that the father affection for a son is greater, others that his affection for a daughter is greater. Mine, however, is equal. How can I be prepared to give up the innocent daughter upon whom rest the regions of bliss able by me in after life, and my own lineage in perpetual happiness? If, again, I sacrifice myself and go to the other world, I should scarcely know any peace, for indeed it is evident that, left by me, these would not be able to support life. The sacrifice of any of these would be cruel and censurable. On the other hand, if I sacrifice myself, these without me will certainly perish. The distress into which I have fallen is great, nor do I know the means of escape. What course shall I take today with my near ones? It is well that I shall die without these, for I can live no longer. On hearing these words of the Brahmana, his wife said, Thou shouldst not, Brahmana, grieve like an ordinary man, nor is this the time for mourning. Thou hast learning, thou knowest that all men are sure to die. None should grieve, for that which is inevitable. Wife, son, and daughter, all these are sought for on own self. As thou art possessed of a good understanding, kill thou thy sorrows. I will myself go there. This, indeed, is the highest and the eternal duty of a woman. that by sacrificing her life she should seek the good of her husband. Such an act done by me will make thee happy, and bring me fame in this world, and eternal bliss hereafter. This, indeed, is the highest virtue that I tell thee, and thou mayest by this acquire both virtue and happiness. The object for which one desireth a wife hath already been achieved by thee through me. I have done thee a daughter and a son, and thus being freed from the debt I had owed thee. Thou art well able to support and cherish the children, but I, however, can never support and cherish them like thee. Thou art my life, wealth, and Lord. Bereft of thee, how shall these children of tender years, how shall I myself exist? Widowed and masterless, with 2 children depending on me, how shall I without thee keep alive the pair, myself leading an honest life? If the daughter of thine is solicited by persons dishonorably and vain, and unworthy of contracting an alliance with thee, how shall I be able to protect the girl? Indeed, as birds seek with avidity for meat that have been thrown away on the ground, so do men solicit a woman that hath lost her husband. Solicited by wicked men, I may waver and may not be able to continue in the path that is desired by our honest men. How shall I be able to place the sole daughter of thy house, this innocent girl, in the way along which his ancestors have always walked? How shall I then be able to impart unto this child every desirable accomplishment to make him virtuous as thyself? In that season of every want, what I shall become masterless. Overpowering myself, who shall be masterless, unworthy persons will demand this daughter of thine, like Sudras desiring to hear the Vedas. And if I bestow not upon them this girl possessing thy blood and qualities, they may even take her away by force, like crows carrying away the sacrificial butter. And beholding thy son become so unlike to thee, and thy daughter placed under the control of some unworthy persons, I shall be despaired in the world by even persons that are dishonorably, and scarcely knowing myself, I will certainly die. These children also, bereft of me and thee, their father, will adopt not, perish like fish when the water drieth up. There is no doubt that bereft of thee, the 3 will perish. Therefore, it behoveth thee to sacrifice me. Persons conversant with morals have said that, for women that have borne children to predecease their lords is an act of the highest merit. Ready am I to abandon this son and this daughter, these my relations, and life itself, for thee. For a woman to be ever employed in doing agreeably offices to her lord is a higher duty than sacrifice, asceticism, vows, and charities of every description. The act, therefore, which I intend to perform is consonant with the highest virtue, and is for thy good and that of thy race. The wise have declared that children and relatives and wife and all things held dear are cherished for the purpose of liberating oneself from danger and distress. One must guard one's wealth for freeing oneself from danger, and it is by his wealth that he should cherish and protect his wife. He must protect his own self, both by his wife and his wealth. The learned have enunciated the truth that own wife, son, wealth, and house are acquired with the intention of providing against accidents, foreseen or unforeseen. The wise have said that our own relations weighed against own self would not be equal unto own self. Therefore, reverend sir, protect thy own self by abandoning me. Give me leave to sacrifice myself and cherish thou my children. Those that are conversant with the morals have in their treatises said that women should never be slaughtered, and that hakishasas are not ignorant of the rules of morality. Therefore, while it is certain that the hakishasa will kill a man, it is doubtful whether he will kill a woman. It behoveth thee, therefore, conversant as thou art with the rules of morality, to place me before the hakishasa. I have enjoyed much happiness, have obtained much that is agreeably to me, and have acquired great religious merit. I have obtained from thee children that are so dear to me, therefore it grieveth not me to die. I have borne these children, and have grown old. I am ever desirous of doing good to thee. Remembering all this, I have come to this resolution. Reverend sir, abandoning me, thou mayest obtain another wife. By her thou mayest again acquire religion's merit. There is no sin in this. For a man, polygamy is an act of merit, but for a woman it is very sinful to betake herself to a second husband after the first. Considering all this, and remembering too that sacrifice of thy own self is censurable, liberate today, without loss of time, thy own self, thy race, and these thy children. Thus addressed by her, the Brahmana embraced her, and they both began to weep in silence, afflicted with grief. On hearing these words of her afflicted parents, the doctor was filled with grief, and she addressed them, saying, Why are you so afflicted, and why do you so weep? As if you have none to look after you. Listen to me and do what may be proper. There is a little doubt that you are bound in duty to abandon me at a certain time. Sure to abandon me once. Abandon me now and save everything at the expense of myself alone. Men desire to have children, thinking that children won't save them. Cross the stream of your difficulties by means of my poor self, as if I were a haft. A child rescueth his parents in these and the other regions. Therefore is the child called by the learned Putra. The ancestor desire doctor sons from me. I myself will rescue them by protecting the life of my father. This my brother is of tender years. So there is little doubt that he will perish if thou diest now. If thou, my father, diest, and my brother followeth thee, the funeral cake of the Pitris will be suspended, and they will be greatly injured. Left behind by my father and brother, and by my mother, I shall be plunged deeper and deeper in war, and ultimately perish in great distress. There can be little doubt that, if thou escape from this danger, my mother and infant brother, then thy race and the cake will be perpetuated. The son is own self, the wife is own friend. The doctor, however, is the source of trouble. Do thou save thyself, therefore, by removing that source of trouble, and do thou thereby set me in the path of virtue. I am a girl, father, destitute of thee, I shall be helpless and plunged in war, and shall have to go everywhere. It is therefore that I am resolved to rescue my father, race, and share the merit of that act by accomplishing this difficult task. If thou, best of Brahmanas, goest thither, leaving me here, then I shall be very much pained. Therefore, Father, be kind to me. Thou best of men, for our sake, for that of virtue, and thy race, save thyself, abandoning me, whom at one time thou shalt be constrained to part with. There need be no delay, Father, in doing that which is inevitable. What can be more painful than that? When thou hast ascended to heaven, we shall have to go about begging our food, like dogs from strangers. If thou art rescued with thy relations from these difficulties, I shall then live happily in the region of the celestials. It hath been heard by us that, if after bestowing thy doctor in this way thou offerest oblations to the gods and the celestials, they will certainly be propitious of thee. The Brahmana and his wife, hearing these various lamentations of their doctor, became sad than before, and the three began to weep together. Their son, then of tender years, beholding them and their doctor thus weeping together, lisped these words in a sweet tone, his eyes having dilated with delight. Wept not, father, or thou, mother, or thou, sister. And smiling did the child approach each of them, and at last taking up a blade of grass, said in glee, with these I will slay Rakshasa, who eateth human beings. Although all them had been plunged in war, yet hearing what the child lisped so sweetly, joy appeared on their faces. Then Kunti, thinking that to be the proper opportunity, approached the group and said these words. Indeed, her words revived them as a nectar reviveth a person that is dead. I desire to learn from you the cause of this grief, for I will remove it, if possible. Thou of ascetic wealth, thy speech is indeed worthy of thee, but this grief is incapable of being removed by an human being. Not far off this town there liveth a Rakshasa of the name of Vaka, which cannibal is the lord of this country and town. Thriving on human flesh, that wretched Rakshasa endowed with great strength, who left this country, he being the chief of the Asuras, this town and the country in which it is situated, are protected by his might. We have no fear from the machinations of an enemy, or indeed from any living soul. The fee, however, fixed for that cannibal is his food, which consists of a cartload of hides, 2 buffaloes, and a woman being who conveyeth them unto him. One after another, the householder have to send him this food. One after another, the householder have to send him this food. Difficult of being kept, the turn, however, cometh to a particular family at intervals of many long years, if there are any that seek to avoid it, the Hakishasa slayeth them with their children and wives, and devoureth them all. There is in this country a city called Vetrakia, where liveth the king of these territories. He is ignorant of the science of government, and possessed of little intelligence. He adopts not with care and measure by which these territories may be handled safe for all time to come. But we certainly deserve it all, inasmuch as we live within the dominion of that wretched and weak monarch in perpetual anxiety. Brahmanas can never be made to dwell permanently within the dominions of an own, for they are dependent on nobody. They live hither like birds hanging our countries in perfect freedom. It hath been said that one must secure a king, then a wife, and then wealth. It is by the acquisition of these three that one can rescue his relatives and sons. But as regards the acquisition of these three, the course of my actions have been the reverse. Hence, plunged into a sea of danger, I am suffering sorely. That turn destructive of one family have now devolved upon me. I shall have to give unto the Hakishasa as his fee the food of the aforesaid description, and one human being to boot. I have no wealth to buy a man with. I cannot by any means consent to part with any one of my family, or do I see any way of escape from that Hakishasa. I am now sunk in an ocean of grief, from which there is no escape. I shall go to that Hakishasa today, attended by all my family, in order that wretched might devour us all at once. Grieve not at all on account of this danger. I see a way by which to rescue thee from that Hakishasa. Thou hast one son, who besides is of very tender years, one daughter, young and helpless. So I do not like that any of these, or thy wife, or even thyself should go unto the Hakishasa. I have 5 sons. Let one of them go, carrying in thy behalf the tribute of that Hakishasa. To save my own life, I shall never suffer this to be done. I shall never sacrifice, to save myself, the life of a Brahmana or of a guest. Indeed, even those that are of low origin and of sinful practices refuse to do. It is said that one should sacrifice oneself and one's offspring for the benefit of a Brahmana. I regard this advice excellent, and I like to follow it too. When I have to choose between the death of a Brahmana and that of my own, I would prefer the latter. The killing of a Brahmana is the high sin, and there is no expiation for it. I think a reluctant sacrifice of one's own self is better than the reluctant sacrifice of a Brahmana. Blessed Lady, in sacrificing myself, I do not become guilty of self-destruction. No sin can attach to me when another will take my life. If I deliberately consent to the death of a Brahmana, it would be a cruel and sinful act, from the consequence of which there is no escape. The learned have said that the abandonment of one who hath come to thy house or sought thy protection, also the killing of one who seeketh death at thy hands, is both cruel and sinful. The illustrious among those conversant with practices allowably in seasons of distress have before now said that one should never perform an act that is cruel and censurable. It is well for me that I should today perish myself with my wife, but I would never sanction the death of a Brahmana. I too am firmly of opinion that Brahmanas should ever be protected. As regards myself, no son of mine would be less dear to me, even if I had 100 instead of the 5 I have. This Rakshasa will not be able to kill my son, for that son of mine is endowed with great prowess and energy, and skilled in mantras. He will faithfully deliver to the Rakshasa his food, but will, I know to a certainty, rescue himself. I have seen before many mighty Rakshasas of huge bodies engaged in combat with my heroic son and killed too by him. Do not disclose this fact to anybody, for if it know, persons desirous of obtaining this power will, from curiosity, always trouble my sons. The wise have said that, if my son imparteth any knowledge without the assent of his preceptor unto any person, my son himself will no longer be able to profit by that knowledge. Thus addressed by Pritha, the Brahmana with his wife became exceedingly glad and assented to Kunti's speech, which was unto them as nectar. Then Kunti, accompanied by the Brahmana, went unto the son of Vayu, and asked him to accomplish. Bhishma replied unto them, saying, So be it. After Bhishma had pledged himself to accomplish the task, saying, I will do it, the Pandavas returned home with the alms they had obtained during the day. Then Yudhishthira, the son of Pandu, from Bhishma's countenance alone, suspected the nature of the task he had undertaken to accomplish. Sitting by the side of his mother, Yudhishthira asked her in private, What is the task, mother, that Bhishma had terrible prowess seeketh to accomplish? Doth he do so at thy command or of his own accord? Kunti replied, Bhishma, that chastiser of fools, will at my command do this great deed for the good of the Brahmana and the liberation of this town. Yudhishthira said, What harsh act hast thou done? Mother, it is difficult of being performed and almost amounteth to suicide. The learned never applaud the abandonment of an own child. Why dost thou, mother, wish to sacrifice thy own child for the sake of another's? Thou hast, mother, by this abandonment of thy child, acted not only against the cause of human practice, also against the teachings of the Vedas. That Bhishma, relying on whose arms we sleep happily in the night and hope to recover the kingdom, of which we have been deprived by the covetous son of Dhritarashtra, that hero of immeasurable energy, remembering whose prowess Duryodhana and Sakuni do not sleep a wink during the whole night, and by whose prowess we were rescued from the palace of luck and various other dangers. That Bhishma, who caused the death of Purokhana, and relying on whose might we regard ourselves as having already slain the sons of Dhritarashtra, and acquired the whole earth with our wealth. Upon what considerations, mother, hast thou resolved upon abandoning him? Hast thou been deprived of thy reason? Hath thy understanding been clouded by the calamities thou hast undergone? On hearing these words of her son, Kunti said, Yudhishthira, thou needst not to be at all anxious on account of Vrikodara. I have not come to this resolve owing to any weakness of understanding. Respected by him and our sorrows assuaged, we have, son, be living in the house of this Brahmana, unknown to the sons of Dhritarashtra, for requiting. That Brahmana I have resolved to do this. He, indeed, is a man upon whom good offices are never lost. The mastery of his Hekital becometh greater than the mastery of the service he receiveth. Beholding the prowess of Bhishma on the occasion of the house of Lak, and from the destruction of Hirinva, my confidence in Vrikodara is great. The might of Bhishma's arms is equal unto that of 10,000 elephants. It was, therefore, that he succeeded in carrying you out, each head as an elephant, from Varanavata. There is no one on earth equal unto Bhishma in might. He may even overcome that foremost of warriors, the holder of the thunderbolt himself. Soon after his birth he fell from my lap on the breast of the mountain, but the weight of his body, the mass of stone on which he fell down, broke into pieces. From this, son of Pandu, I have come to know Bhishma might. For this reason have I resolved to set him against the Brahmana foe. I have not acted in this from foolishness or ignorance or from motive of gain. I have deliberately resolved to do this virtuous deed. By this act, Yudhishthira, two objects will be accomplished. One is a requital of the service rendered by the Brahmana, and the other is the acquisition of high religion's merit. It is my conviction that the Kshatriya who rendereth help unto a Brahmana in anything acquireth regions of bliss hereafter. So a Kshatriya who saveth the life of a Kshatriya achieveth that great fame in this world as in the other. A Kshatriya rendering help unto a Vaisya on this earth certainly acquires worldwide popularity. One of the kingly tribe should protect even the Sudra who cometh to him for protection. If he doth so, in his next life he receiveth his birth in a royal line, commanding prosperity and the respect of other kings. Sion of Puru race, the illustrious Vyasa of wisdom, acquired Bharat Asset Kitoyo, told me so in bygone days. It is, therefore, that I have resolved upon accomplishing this. Having heard these words of his mother, Yudhishthira said, What thou, mother, hast deliberately done, moved by compassion for the afflicted Brahmana, is indeed excellent. Bhishma will certainly come back with life, after having slain the cannibal, inasmuch as thou art always compassionate unto Brahmanas. Tell the Brahmana that he doth not do anything whereby the dwellers in this town may know all about it, and make him promise to keep thy request. Then, when the night passed away, Bhimasena, the son of Pandu, taking with him the Hakishasa food, set out for the place where the cannibal lived. The mighty son of Pandu, approaching the forest where the Hakishasa dwelt, began to eat himself the food he carried, calling loudly to the Hakishasa by name. The Hakishasa, inflamed with anger at Bhishma would, came out and approached the place where Bhishma was. Of hug body and great strength, of had eyes and had beard and had hair, he was terribly to behold, and he came, pressing deep the earth with his tread. The opening of his mouth was from ear to ear, and his ears themselves were straight as arrows. Of green visage, his forehead was furrowed into 3 lines. Beholding Bhishma eating his food, the Hakishasa advanced, beating his nether lip and expanding his eyes in wrath, and addressing Bhishma, he said, "Who is this fool, who, desiring to go to the abode of Yama, eateth in my very sight the food intended for me?" Hearing these words, Bhishma smiled in derision, and disregarding the Hakishasa, continued eating with averted face. Beholding this, the cannibal uttered a frightful yell, and with both arms upraised ran at Bhishma, desiring to kill him there and then. Even then, disregarding the Hakishasa, and casting on a single glance at him, Vrikodara, that slayer of hostile heroes, continued to eat the Hakishasa food. Filled with wrath at this, the Hakishasa struck from behind with both his arms a heavy blow on the back of Vrikodara, the son of Kunti. Bhishma, struck heavily by the mighty Hakishasa with both his hands, did not even look up at the Hakishasa, continued to eat as before. Then the mighty Hakishasa, inflamed with wrath, tore up a tree and ran at Bhishma, for striking him again. Meanwhile, the mighty Bhishma, that bore among men, had lazily eaten up the whole of that food, and washing himself, stood cheerful for fight. Then, possessed of great energy, Bhishma, smiling in derision, cocked with his left hand the tree hurled at him by the Hakishasa in wrath. Then that mighty Hakishasa, tearing up many more trees, hurled them at Bhishma, and the Pandava hurled as many at the Hakishasa. Then the combat with trees between that human being and that Hakishasa became so terribly that the region around soon became destitute of trees. Then the Hakishasa, saying that he was none else than Vaka, sprang upon the Pandava and seized the mighty Bhishma with his arms. That mighty hero, clasping with his own strong arms the strong-armed Hakishasa, and exerting himself actively, began to drag him violently. Dragged by Bhishma and dragging Bhishma, the cannibal was overcome with great fatigue. The earth began to tremble in consequence of the strength they both exerted, and large trees that stood there broke into pieces. Then Bhishma, beholding the cannibal overcome with fatigue, pressed him down on the earth with his knees, and began to strike him with great force. Then, placing one knee on the middle of the Hakishasa back, Bhishma seized his neck with his right hand, and the cloth on his waist with his left, and bent him doubly with great force. The cannibal then roared frightfully, and he began to vomit blood while he was being thus broken on Bhishma's knee. Then Vaka, hug as a mountain, thus broken, died, uttering frightful yells. Terrified by these sounds, the relatives of that Hakishasa came out, with their attendants. Vítima, that foremost of his meters, seeing them so terrified and deprived of reason, comforted them and made them promises, saying, "Do not ever again kill human beings. If ye kill men, ye will have to die even as Vaka." Those Rakshasas, hearing this speech of Bhishma, said, "So be it," and gave the desired promise. From that day, the Rakshasas were seen by the inhabitants of that town to be very peaceful towards mankind. Then Bhishma, dragging the lifeless cannibal, placed him at one of the gates of the town, and went away unobserved by anyone. The king's men of Vaka, beholding him slain by the might of Bhishma, became frightened and fled in different directions. Meanwhile, Bhishma, having slain the Rakshasa, returned to the Brahmana abode, and related to Yudhishthira all that had happened in detail. The next morning, the inhabitants of the town, in coming out, saw the Rakshasa lying dead on the ground, his body covered with blood. Beholding that terrible cannibal, hooked as a mountain cliff, thus mangled and lying on the ground, the hair of the spectators stood erect. Returning to Ekakakra, they soon gave the intelligence. Then the citizens, by thousands, accompanied by their wives, young and old, all began to come to the spot for beholding the Vaka, and they were all amazed at seeing that superhuman feat. Instantly, they began to pray to their gods. Then they began to calculate whose turn it had been the day before to carry food to the Rakshasa. And ascertaining this, they all came to that Brahmana and asked him. Thus asked by them repeatedly, that who among Brahmanas, desirous of concealing the Pandavas, said these words to all the citizens. A certain high-souled Brahmana, skilled in mantras, beheld me weeping with my relatives, after I had been ordered to supply the Rakshasa food. Asking me the cause and ascertaining the distress of the town, that first of Brahmanas gave me every assurance, and with smiles said, "I shall carry the food for that wretched Rakshasa today. Do not fear for me." Saying this, he conveyed the food towards the forest of Vaka. This deed, so beneficial unto us all, have very certainly been done by him. Then those Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, hearing this, wondered much, and the Vaisyas and the Sudras became exceedingly glad, and they all established a festival in which the worship of Brahmanas was the principal ceremony.